what can we talk about? Let's see. But yeah, about that anemia thing, I just remembered something. Over 20 years ago, or about 20 years ago, when I did that clinical research study, the doctor came to me and said, "Oh, your red blood cell count is low. Just eat a lot of meat, or just eat a lot of red meat." And that was when, I was about to be discharged. That was 20 years ago. So a lot of people are, anemic or borderline anemic, and when you go to the doctor, they just do some stupid tests, and if you read the results, it always shows you're in range 9 times out of 10, but for some reason it doesn't ever show if you're borderline for whatever reason. So, doctors aren't real reliable. So I've been borderline anemic for over 20 years. Well, back then that was probably from eating disorders. But now it was probably from, gluten. It was from the gluten now. And even my stepdad, they said he was anemic as well. But his got a little better on the second test that he took or whatever. I guess a couple months later or whatever. And if you think about it, it really is hard. I think you're supposed to get like 24 or 26 milligrams or whatever a day. And if you think about it, if you look at all the things you're eating, it would be really hard to get that amount. Because they always act like it's impossible to not get enough. Bull crap. That's just one of those things that they suppress, you know what I mean? Or that's a scam. They act like, nobody should be anemic or whatever. And half the world is anemic or borderline. But yeah, so you're supposed to get about 26 milligrams, I think. And if you look at all the stuff you're eating, you're probably going to count 15 or 16. So you're going to have to take a supplement, for the other, to get the other part or whatever. But yeah, so I've been borderline anemic for 20 freaking years or longer. Because like I say, the doctor, I was about to be discharged. It was a 21-day stay. And I did eat 3 times a day during that study. And she came to me and she like, this is showing your red blood cell count is low. Just eat a lot of red meat. And, and then that other doctor a couple years ago said that I was borderline anemic. Or I told the girl, the nurse assistant, I was like, well, how come my tests are always coming up normal when I go to the doctor? And she's like, well, you're probably just like borderline. And I know that's true because your tongue shouldn't be like all white, you know what I'm saying? It should be pink or red or whatever. That's a sign right there that you're borderline anemic or anemic. I never really felt weak or anything. Well, sometimes I would be like, have urges to get tired or whatever, but that was just from low blood sugar problems. But yeah, but I take a really good supplement. It's just 26 milligrams. You don't want to take like real cheap stuff that's like 1,000 milligrams because that's not good for your body. You don't want to take mega doses of it. But another thing I was gonna say, this is about alien stuff. But so okay, so enough about the anemia stuff. But okay, so since I was about, I remember since I was about 10 years old, I would see those little dots. You'd see flickers of like blue light. Like even today, I see them, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a day. Like I may see one just bam, like right there. Or like at work, my boss was standing there and then I saw like a big, like right over his face. A big blue light or whatever. I don't know if anybody else sees these, but it's like a fluorescent blue light. Or, sometimes they could be big, sometimes little. Like flickers. Well, now I realize they're aliens. But back then when I was 10 years old, when I first well, I was probably seeing them all my life, but I remember specifically, seeing them when I was like 10 or 11, and I thought they were spirits. But now I realize it's aliens. And, but sometimes they could be silver. Sometimes they could be kind of black, silver, or fluorescent blue. But 9 times out of 10, I see blue. The fluorescent. I just saw one when I went in to check on the turtles, like, flicker on the bathtub. Those are, entities, that can't, or that, aren't manifested or whatever. Oh, Tor, I'm sorry. Okay, so, yeah, but, well, see, when I went to the Sylvia Brown, this was a long time ago, I went to Sylvia Brown lecture in Kansas City, and then a man came on and talked for about an hour before Sylvia Brown came on, and he talked about that. He's like, does any of you guys see those little, and of course he was saying they're spirits, but now I realize they're aliens. And the whole, auditorium wasn't filled up or anything, but I was the only one that raised my hand. Because apparently he saw them too, but he was the only one I know of that also sees them. And like one time I was driving down the highway, and then I saw a big massive, like silver, whitish, like that, like in front of me. But they're aliens basically. And because I don't believe spirits are in this dimension. They're not accessing this dimension. That they're inaccessible. Oh, sorry, baby. But quit that, Tora. They're not what do you call it? They're not influencing this reality. Only aliens and stuff. The spirits are like way over there. Like if here's 3D, here's 4D, and the spirit dimension is way over there. Way, so it's unaccessible. Inaccessible. But so that's another thing I was gonna say. But oh my god, the aliens, they like freaking, this was, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago. They gave me this scenario because they know how to resonate with you like to a T. And it's like so awesome. Like they give me these love affairs, like these love romance scenarios, in my virtual reality altered state. And this woman was like a cross between 2 people that I don't know, I've seen or know of or something. The aliens are funny. But yeah, so she was like kind of like a cross between 2 people. But yeah, man, they give you these like affairs and stuff, these like romance scenarios, and it's like, oh my god, it's like such a blast. And then when I woke up, it still seemed so real. Like it still seemed like it overlays into this dimension. It still feels real. Like in this dimension, it almost feels real. So cool. And then a couple days later, and actually, well, the whole scenario was, okay, we were in my huge house. This my house that I was in, or that was my house, but it was like 8 times bigger. And we were in that front bedroom, and we were just having like romance and stuff. And and what the deal was, we were just having like a little liquor party. And so basically we were hanging out in the bedroom, and then like 4, 5, 6 other people came, couple women and a lot of men. They all looked about 30, and they were roaming around my house, fixing drinks and stuff. And I was like, thinking, too bad I can't drink, so I didn't, drink or anything. And man, but in the scenario, my house was like 7 times bigger. And it was just like, wow. And I even remember thinking when I was walking around my house, like, I can't believe I live in this big old thing by myself. Because in real life, I live here, by myself. So in the scenario, and of course my front bedroom was like at least 4 times bigger. And like, we were just having, like romance and stuff. But they do this a lot. I mean, sometimes they'll do it 7 days in a row. They'll give me scenarios like that, and it's like such a blast. And then there was this other scenario they gave me a couple days later with this one person, I knew and had relations with, a long time ago. But that other one in real life, I didn't. The alien just created her, crossed between two people. But that other scenario, yeah, like, well, that scenario, I was roaming around her house. And in the scenario, I was roaming around her house under, like OBE, lucid dream. And then eventually, we went to my uncle's house. But anyway, it was long. Both scenarios were like, 5-7 hours long and non-3D time. And we were just like, walking around, talking, thinking, saying, what are we going to do next? Or whatever. Now, in that scenario, we didn't have any like, romance. But one part of the scenario, me and her we walked up, we had went to another, like a work location, like my work location, and I had walked up to find my cubicle, and I had noticed a man had already taken my cubicle, like a businessman had taken my cubicle, and already like had his stuff in my cubicle, and I could even smell the cologne that he left behind, and I remember thinking, that was my cubicle, why did he take my cubicle? And like we went upstairs, like it was like 3 or 4 floors up, but the alien just kind of copied that because in real life, when I used to be a seasonal employee, I remember, these permanent employees just couldn't wait to come and overtake our cubicles because we were seasonal and we were going to be laid off for about 2 or 3 months. So the aliens put that in there, but one part of the scenario was kind of funny because, well, that's when I hopped back over to my uncle's house, and Debbie was over there with me. We were walking around, conversing and talking and stuff. And there was like big old glass picture window. I was sitting on the couch in my uncle's house. But like I said, at first the scenario was in her house. And then we went over to my work site. And, I already told you with the cubicle thing. But then we went over to my uncle's house. And it was pretty big. The living room was pretty huge. And I was sitting on the couch, and Debbie was walking around, and there's big old, it was this big old glass picture window, and I was looking out the window, and there was a grape tree. Well, it kind of looked like a plum tree, but in my scenario, it was black grapes, all over the tree. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm going to go pick some of those grapes. And, because the aliens know I like black grapes. And they were fresh, they were all over the tree, short little tree, plum trees, short little trees, but this was a grape tree. And I know grapes don't really grow like that. But anyway, so my mom was walking around the scenario too, and she was like, no, you don't want to eat those grapes, they've already rotted and everything. And no, they were not rotten, they were perfectly healthy and fresh. And, but the aliens copied that because in real life, we used to have plum trees at our house over there. And the short little trees, and the plums were only about that big around. And we would eat them. Of course, a lot of them would fall to the ground and they would get yucky, or the squirrels would eat them or whatever. But a lot of them were perfect, and we would pop them in our mouth. I don't know what species of plums they were, but I wish my parents wouldn't have knocked those plum trees down. I mean, they would be probably 100 years old. I don't know. I mean, they were there before I was born and stuff. But the plums were like pinkish, reddish. They were about that big around. They weren't like those big ones you see at the stores. And so the aliens kind of copied that, except they made it a black grape tree instead of a plum tree. But anyway, it was kind of that was kind of a love affair, or a love. Except we didn't have any romance in that scenario. But it's like we were still dating, and but it's amazing what they do. But it's a blast, man. Okay, so Okay, so then I guess I could talk about those other two experiences I never talked about. 2014 to New York City, and they've taken me to New York City before under Altered State. You know, created scenarios that they create for me, virtual reality scenarios. New York City, that was in 2014. And then Oprah Winfrey to her mansion, that was in Chicago, or that was when they took me to Chicago, and they've taken me to Chicago before too. That was a couple years ago in 2017. So I'll talk about the one. I gotta get this flea off Hannah. Hannah got a flea. Hannah got a flea. Gotta get that off. But in the summertime, I gotta shave their neck real good because the fleas only congregate around the neck. So I just gotta shave their neck real good, and that gets rid of them. Except Hannah and Tora, they barely get any at all, so I don't really have to shave them. Besides, they wouldn't let me anyway. But Truman, I do. Patty, and Cesar, I do. And I don't know where other Cesar. Okay, so in 2014, I never talked about these two. They were both A- experiences. Very virtual reality, very clear. They were out-of-body experience, virtual reality. The one to New York City, that was maybe, well, the second part of the scenario was mildly, like, you know, felt like I was in another dimension, like lucid dreamy feeling. I was in another dimension. The first part was more 3D feeling. That was to New York City, and I don't know what I had been watching or whatever. I don't know why the aliens took me to New York City. But anyway, okay, so in 2014, this is how the scenario started. Okay, so, you know, it started, they placed me down, and I know it was a reptilian that gave these kind of scenarios. The flat-faced beings give me these kind of scenarios, and the flat-faced reptilian beings. Okay, so they plopped me down, or he did, or whatever. Was it a motel or apartment? Yeah, plopped me down, and it seemed like I was on about, let's see, 7th or 8th floor. It seemed like I was on about the 7th or 8th floor. It was a hotel. They plopped me down on the 7th or 8th floor, like hotel, and my mom and sister were like walking around. It's a pretty big motel room. It's pretty big, and so I started walking around. And the funny thing is, well, the aliens copied this too. The floor was tilted. So when I was walking, it was like tilted. The floor was warped because apparently it had foundation problems. Because the aliens copied that. Because in real life in Austin, Texas, I looked at this condo, and it was like only like 400 something square feet condo, and it was on like the third level. And when you're walking around, you could tell it was you were kind of tilting because that whole place had foundation issues. And like all of that is such a scam, because I remember looking at the paperwork and it said foundation issues fixed, you know, check. No, they weren't fixed, because if they were fixed, you wouldn't be walking at a tilt. You know what I mean? I never did buy the stupid thing, and I'm glad I didn't. So anyway, the aliens copied that. I moved back here in 2010, but I lived in Austin, Texas from 2003 to 2006. So they placed me in New York City, and so like I say, I was on about the 6th level of the hotel, the 6th floor. So I was walking around, you know, the floor of the motel room, the hotel room, and me and my sister and mom, like we were talking and everything. And I went over to the right was a small little bathroom, and I remember looking at the toilet paper and everything. And I know they copied that too from that little bitty bathroom that used to be at that ghetto triplex that I lived in for about a year over on the other part of town. They copied that, but it was clean as far as I remember. It was clean, and I remember looking at everything, like looking at the toilet and looking at there was toilet paper in the little thing, and I remember looking at all that. Okay, so then after I started walking around the motel room, it gets better. After I started walking around the motel room, and like I said, like I was talking to my sister and my mom, and I don't know how long that lasted, but the whole scenario in non-3D time probably lasted, like, I don't know, probably an hour or two in non-3D time. But like I said, that was in 2014. So probably forgetting a few little details, or just minor details, but it wasn't a super duper long experience. Okay, so then after the aliens placed me in the motel room, then and I was conversing and stuff, then to my sister and my mom, then I don't actually remember walking down the steps to get to outside to get to the big city part, on the ground level, where all the people are walking around and stuff. Okay, so then I don't know why the aliens do this a lot, but I know what I was gonna say. It seemed like it was about, I don't know, 4 p.m. when I first, when they first placed me in the motel room. By the time I started walking on the streets that direction, okay, so the motel room was right here, and we were on about the 5th or 6th level, and then they placed me. And then I started walking, on the streets over here, and so I started walking like that direction, and there's a lot of people walking around, and it seemed like it was getting dark. It was dusk. And they do that a lot, like it'll be daytime, and then towards the end of the scenario, it'll be dark, or almost dark, or dusk. And it was already getting dark, it was dusk. And so over to my right was a whole bunch of vendors. And they've done this before too, put a whole bunch of vendors when they're making me walk around a city or street or whatever. They'll put a whole bunch of vendors. There's a whole bunch of vendors over here. And then I met up with a man, which was probably the reptilian posing as a human. But it could have been he just created, a man. He placed, I was walking, and this man stopped me. And see, because I waited too long to talk about this experience. As far as I remember, he looked about, I don't know, like 58 or 60. And he kind of had longish, he was kind of scraggly looking, as far as I remember, like longish, kind of curlyish, like brownish hair down to here. And he looked at me, and he was holding up, he's like, "You want to buy some of my things?" And I was looking at all the things he had in his hands, and he had like some condoms, and like lube, little things of lube and stuff, and there was other things too he was holding up, but I can't remember what they were. And he wanted me to like buy them, so I was like staring at everything, and he wanted me to see if I would buy some of his little gadgets that he was selling. And I can't remember what I said. I don't know if I said anything, because like I said, this experience was a long time ago, so I probably forgot some details. But like I say, it was getting dark. It was dusk. And so he was trying to sell me some condoms and some like lube and sexual things, but he had more than that. I just can't remember, every single thing that he was holding up for me to buy. Okay, so then here's the funny part. I looked over to my left, and on the ground level of another big building hotel on the ground level, and this motel room, it just seemed like one big bedroom. Now I don't know, it could have just been the bedroom, and then the other parts of the motel was off in the back. So I looked over to my left, and there was like a young couple like having sex. It was they seemed about in their 20s. But it wasn't real graphic or anything. Sometimes the aliens will make things like really, really, really graphic. But, they were just, it wasn't like real graphic. They were all in the bed, and, but they were making out and having sex. And it was a white couple. And like I say, the motel room was just, bam, on the ground level. And it was just one bedroom. The motel room was just one bedroom. Or at least that's what the aliens showed me, just the one bedroom. And, the drapes were open and everything, so I could just, see that they were having sex. Okay, so that was my experience in New York City, my out-of-body experience to New York City. And they've taken me to New York City, 5, 6 other times, too. They've also taken me to Chicago, 2, 3 other times. And okay, so this is kind of funny. This was a couple years ago, and it was also A- experience. And also, this experience in non-3D time probably lasted a good 2 hours. It wasn't super duper duper long, like lucid dream. It wasn't a lucid dream. It was just more of an out-of-body experience, virtual reality experience, just like that other one. And those are shorter than my long, drawn-out lucid dreams. Okay, so what are we doing? Yeah, no. Well, I didn't get crap this morning because I didn't even sleep all night. I had insomnia all night. I think because I ate some chocolates. What are they called? Not Hershey's Kisses. Chocolate chips. I ate some chocolate chips before bedtime. And I had eaten some, I gotta put that on my list to never eat again because I can't eat pinto beans. They mess me up. So I'm not gonna eat pinto beans anymore. But so I had insomnia all night. And then today, I don't even know if I fell asleep to tell the truth or not. But I think I did. I think I did finally fall asleep from 4:30 to 6:30. So I basically only got 2 hours of sleep since, yesterday, morning or whatever. But, and I don't even feel that tired, but I'm going to eat something here in a minute, and then hopefully I'll be able to go to bed in about an hour. But, okay, so so basically what the aliens did, okay, because I remember, being at work and just seeing, like I said, this was a couple years ago, and this was a virtual reality experience, out-of-body experience. It wasn't a lucid dream. And, basically, I remember, I could just see, one thing, one image, and then the aliens will decide to create long, drawn-out, 20-hour scenario under my altered state for me. Okay, so in this case, because I do remember, I think I was on YouTube, and it was a couple years ago. In real life, I was on YouTube, and I just glanced over there, and there was a video about Oprah Winfrey. Just, a video. Okay, so the aliens took that and ran with it. So then they create the scenario for me of being in Chicago. So basically, here's how it first started. Okay, it was me, my mom, and my sister. But this is how it started. This is how it started. We're in Chicago. Oprah's mansion is right here. The big old lake, which almost seems like an ocean, is right here. And her mansion isn't very far from the lake or ocean. And so basically we're standing there. Me, my sister, and my mom are standing there in front of Oprah Winfrey's mansion, the beautiful doors. And it was wood. It was like wood doors. Okay, so then I looked over to my right, and basically it was kind of like a lagoon, like this big, huge lagoon before you got to the lake or the ocean, which was right there. Like it was a big old lagoon, but basically it was for the kids to swim in, and there was all these kids swimming in it. But Oprah actually owned it. That was part of her property, that big old lagoon. And it was a pretty good size. And I was like, well, don't you not want them to play, on your property and swim on your property? And she said, oh, it doesn't bother me because I don't swim anyway. That's what Oprah told me. And okay, so then after I started looking at that, the lagoon and everything, she well, I guess I can't remember when she opened the door or whatever, but so after I started looking at the lagoon and everything, so now we're standing inside of her mansion, and that's when, she told me that she didn't mind the kids, and there was, oh my God, there was at least 40 kids, playing, swimming in the lagoon, which is just like a big swimming pool. It wasn't like a narrow lagoon. It was more big and kind of more like rounder. And that was just a little area before you got to the lake right there, which almost seemed like an ocean or something. Okay, so then we were standing, behind her doors in the mansion. And so then at first, okay, she leads us to I don't know what you call it, a den, I guess. A big old den. So we go to the first den, and I was looking at all her little knickknacks and stuff that she had sitting around, and I remember thinking, her ceilings were pretty dang high. There was a lot of wood, a lot of like cherry wood, shelves and stuff. And so I was looking at a bunch of her knickknacks and stuff, and I remember thinking, well, those just look like cheap little knickknacks, that I would have in my house. And so I was observing all that. Well, then we went over into like another living room or den area, and I know my sister and mom said some things too, but I can't remember what they said. We went over to a nicer like den area, which also had a whole bunch of wood dressers and stuff like that. Wood shelves and there were some couches and stuff like that. And then I started looking at some of her knickknacks and stuff, and then it was like much more, I cut my finger, much more expensive looking, stuff, knickknacks and stuff, like wood knickknacks, and just a bunch more expensive looking stuff. And so then here's the funny part. So basically she, in her mansion, we got to see that first den, and then the second den, and then we walked into a big dining room. And I don't know where the kitchen was exactly, but a big dining room. And it had a big, huge, long table. And that's when me and my sister were like walking around, and I think my sister and mom, they were like, are we gonna get cookies or something like that? And I know they said some other things, but I can't remember because this was 2 years ago. Okay, so then, that one woman that everybody says she's like dating, that lesbian looking woman, I can't remember her name. Her friend, she was in the scenario. I can't remember her name. She's not ugly or anything, but they're like friends, and everybody says they're like lesbos. So she was basically walking around the big, huge, and I know I'm forgetting some stuff, but that's okay. I just gotta stop waiting so long to tell, my experience or whatever. But I'm just forgetting some things, like some of the things that we said and stuff. But okay, so basically, so then she started walking around, and she said some stuff to us, but I can't remember what she said. And so it was me and my sister, and we were walking around the big, huge dining room with a big old table, like this direction, bunch of chairs and everything. And that's when Oprah's friend was walking around, and that's when she started giving us a little plate of cookies. She gave it a glass. They were like china glass. She started giving us little plates of cookies, and like this, the plates were this big, and there's cookies on them. She gave me a plate, and my sister and my mom, and I know she said some things, and we said some things too, but I can't, remember those conversations because it had been too long since I told the story. But like I say, I remember, 3D being at work, and I just glanced over to the side of YouTube, and there was a YouTube about Oprah. And so the aliens just ran with it and gave me this experience. And, but yeah, it was a fun experience. And like I said, they've taken me to Chicago a couple other times too. Like many years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Under, an awesome OBE VR, OBE VR / Lucid Dream or OBE VR. And, yeah, so, I don't know. Could probably talk about another one. Okay, what can I talk about? Patty! Man, my skin's so dry. Just took a bath, but my arm right here is real chapped. My skin is like so dry. But okay, what can I talk about? Well, I guess I have time to talk about the other one. Let's see. Okay, I think I have time. Wait, let me check real quick. Oh my god, 36 minutes. Okay, well I have to go get something real quick. $36. Okay, yeah, I could probably talk about it in 10 minutes. Okay, so there's this little thing. Okay, so Anthony the alien, he was an interdimensional alien that showed up in physical form to me 4 times back in 2017 in March at the bookstore. He showed up 4 times in 27 days at the bookstore. It was so weird, and he even did like telepathy with me and told me when he was gonna be there. And I didn't even think anything of it. How cool that was, you know what I'm saying? And but I gave him a $10 bill. Well, I knew the first time I met him that he was most likely interdimensional alien. And but you know, I mean, he's sitting there showing up physical, so it's just, it does a trip on your brain, you know. And he was posing as a homeless man. So the second time I met up with him, you know, I gave him, or the second time he showed up at the bookstore, I gave him a $10 bill. And so after I kind of knew he wasn't going to show up anymore physically, I told him I wanted my $10 back. Well, guess what? He gave it back to me. And he teleported it back to me and put it by my tire at work. Like, I don't know, couple, 2-3 weeks later, something like that. That's all on YouTube, those videos. And also another thing Anthony the alien did, he also gave me an experience in the altered state, a virtual reality experience in the altered state. And I know it was him because he told me it was him. Because at the beginning of the scenario, I kept saying, Anthony, Anthony, Anthony. Because he was telling me, he was giving me that virtual reality experience. And that was under the altered state. But anyway, and it's amazing. These, yeah, they can show up physically for a short period of time. They'll reappear and disappear really fast. He did that. That's what was so cool. When he first showed up right there at the cafe, he was acting like he was getting stuff, you know, for his coffee, which he never even had. He never did eat or drink or anything like that. But that's when he first showed up. That first night, it was pouring down rain, you know, because they probably can't handle the sun, in March in 2017. And what time was it? 7 o'clock at night. And it was already dark outside. It was 7 o'clock at night. And he just showed up. I mean, he just appeared right there, standing there in front of the little cabinet thing where it had the lids and straws and stuff, and he was just acting like he was doing whatever. He tried to give me a 4-pack of pudding too. I should have taken it, but the thing is, he copied that from my brain too, because I had just been to Big K a couple days previous, and I remember looking over there on the shelf, that pudding. See, they always mock, you know, everything you have in your brain, but it's amazing what they do, man. I don't know how they do it. It's amazing. He tried to give me this and he had it in his hand. He's like, you want some pudding? A 4-pack of pudding. And it looked gross. It was like banana or something like that. I should have taken it, but I didn't. But he did give me some McDonald's and Wendy's, you know, cards, and I do have those still. But after he disappeared and went off to his own dimension, why did he do with that pudding? He didn't take it back over into his dimension. He just left it somewhere, you know. But he did give me the $10 back. He teleported it. I wish I would have wrote down all the numbers just to see if he gave me the same $10 back. I know there was a rip in it, which the $10 bill that I gave him did not have a little tear in it. So he obviously tore it a little bit or something. So that's Anthony the alien. But what I was going to say was when he was standing there and then he turned around and he was like, "You two girls look familiar." And then he started talking to us and stuff. And then he's like, he sat there and started saying some things to us, some things I could relate to. And then he's like, "Well, I'm going to leave you alone here in a minute." That was the first meeting, the first time he met up with us. And then 3 more times after that, the whole month of March, from March 6th to like March 28th. And when he said he was about to leave us alone, he got up, and that's when he just freaking disappeared. He walked a couple feet, and then he just disappeared, and I was like, what the hell? So yeah, they live, you know, they show all that in that movie, They Live, how they could reappear and disappear, except that they're kind of wrong in that movie, because they're talking about hybrids, and they can't reappear and disappear, but the true aliens, interdimensional aliens, can, and he did. Okay, so, the reason why that comes into play is because I think he showed up again for me in a different form okay, so that was all in March. Okay, so, early June of 2017, me and my mom went up to the grocery store to hang out and drink cocoa or whatever. And, this hideous looking man, he was just fat, he was hideous looking. He was just, and he told me his name, but I can't remember what it was. He had like a gay guy accent and a southern Tennessee twang. He was already there when we showed up. I mean, he was just there, waiting for us. And I believe he was an interdimensional alien, and I believe, the reason why I believe it could have been Anthony in a different form, you know, some people think, you know, these entities are demons, so naturally they can take on any form they want. The reason why I think he was Anthony in a different form was because, now he didn't say anything about Roman times or anything like that during those 4 times he met us up at, or he met me at Barnes & Noble's or whatever, or he appeared at Barnes & Noble's in the cafe. He didn't say anything about Roman times, medieval times, or anything like that. But when he gave me the altered state experience, it was about that. The theme was about that. And then when he showed up again in physical form up at the bookstore, that came into play again, that same theme. Because he said he gave this to me, and he said he shined it up and everything, and he says that this is like 400 years old, this bead. And he said this, he got from the string, he said he got from that vodka or whatever it's called, in the glass of really pretty vodka, and the purple felt casing. And he said the string, you know, was around it, and that's where he got the string. And then he put this bead that he found in England, a bead that he found in England, in like, he didn't call it crop circle, but he called it, what did he call it? I don't know, he said he was in the pasture or whatever, woods or whatever, in nature, and he found this. But anyway, so up at Price Cutter, this hideous man was just already waiting for me and my mom when we showed up. Like, he was already there, waiting for us. And he, like I said, well, this time he appeared more demonic. And he even gave me his name, but I can't remember his name. It was a common name. I mean, I didn't want to remember. He was hideous looking. And he also gave me his email at the end of the these beings are getting good at manifesting physically for a long period of time. And so, okay, at the beginning of the scenario, this is all in 3D. Okay, so we walked into Price Cutter, and he's already there, sitting at a table. And so he started hearing me and my mom talk, and he's like, "Where are you from? You have a what do you say? Oh yeah, he said like where are you from? Are you dating anybody?" And then he said, what did he say? Okay, he said, what did he say? He said, "Are you dating anybody?" Oh yeah, he said at first he said, "Where are you from? Are you dating anybody?" And then he said, you have an accent. You act like you have like a European accent." And he just copied that. He copied that because he knew back over 20, 30 years ago when I used to have these, odd jobs, a couple people have said, "Are you European? You have an accent?" Or people have told me that before. Not lately, though. This was over 20 years ago. People have said that. And so he was just copying off my brain. And that's the first thing he said. He was like, "Where are you from?" Like in a southern gay accent. He said, "Are you from Europe? You have a southern accent." He said, "Are you from Europe?" And he said, "Are you European?" And then he said, he asked me if I was dating anybody, and because he wanted to date me, and I told him that I was, or something like that. And then, okay, and he also was posing as, well, he looked homeless. He totally looked homeless. He had these nasty clothes on. He was fat. And okay, so after he started saying all of that, he said that, okay, all the stuff he said made no sense whatsoever. He said that, he looked like a homeless man to me. When they show up, a lot of times they do pose as homeless people or blue collar workers, zombies. Okay, so anyway, he, like I say, he was just ugly and hideous looking. He was fat, and he walked, with the limp, like fat, kind of with the limp. And, okay, so anyway, so after he said all of that, okay, now here's the funny thing, though. I remember when we stood up and we were about to leave, after we had the big, all of our big conversations and stuff, I remember him having all this crap all over the table, like notepads, like all over and his wallet, notepads, and all of that. But then, when he got up and left, I don't remember him taking any of that with him. That part was kind of weird. But anyway, so after he said all of that, then he started proceeding to say that he had came up from Branson, Missouri, and he was trying to meet up with his daughter or something like that. And then he goes on to saying that he's a chef and that he owns a business. He owns a business in it was like England. It was over there in Europe somewhere. I think it was England. He said he owned a business and a chef. It was either Italy or England. And it didn't make sense. Because there he is, he looks homeless. And he looks homeless and scraggly and grotesque. And then he said he came up from Branson to meet up with his daughter. And I thought he was homeless because he looked homeless. And then he proceeded to say that he was a chef. And that he had a business over there in England, a restaurant. And like I say, he also gave me his email address. and I wish I would have, wrote it down and everything, because I could have, written him. And if he never did write back, well, that would pretty much prove he was interdimensional alien. But I think it was Anthony in a different form. So yes, he was. Then he would have been interdimensional, and he would be back off in his own dimension. And okay, so he said that. And let me think. But he insisted I take this. I was just like, oh yeah, he had this around his neck. That's right, he had it around his neck. Oh yeah, when he was sitting over there, when I after a few minutes after I first saw him, and after he said a few things, after the within the first 10 minutes, he had this around his neck, and I was like, what's that around your neck? And then he started, and then he said, do you want it? You can have it. And I was like, oh no, that's okay. And he just insisted that I take it. So I finally took it. And he did say that he got it from England. When he was over there in England, he was, I don't know, he was roaming around the pasture or something. No, I don't know what he called it. I can't remember. But, and I think I started thinking in my head, like, crop circle type of land or whatever. That's what I was thinking in my head when he said he was walking around over there in England. I can't remember if he said crop circle or not, but he said he found this bead, and he said it's Roman, like from the Roman era, and he said it was over 400 years old. And he said that he shined it up and everything. And then I told you already, he said that the string was from that vodka or rum, whatever it is. I forgot what it's called. In the purple felt casing. And I don't know if you can see it. This is the bead. So, man, this could be worth a lot of money. No, it's probably not, but I guess if it's 400 or 500 years old, ouch, I cut myself yesterday. It hurts, man. I was taking the trash out, and it... Okay, so it looks like a paper slit. It hurts. Okay, so but he just insisted, because I was like, no, that's okay. He's like, yeah, but he insisted I take it. He's like, no, take it. Probably has magical powers. He insisted that I take it, so I took it. Okay, so anyway, okay, so this is what's really weird too. But anyway, that didn't make any sense, because he looked real scraggly, and I mean, if he was a business owner, he would look better, And but he said he was a chef, and I was asking him questions, and but what he was saying didn't make any sense, because I was like, well, when are you going to go back over there? When are you going to fly back over there? And it just did not make sense. And okay, so then, oh shit, I gotta hurry up. Crap, I don't have any more time. Okay, so then because he's kind of like representing demons, you know what I mean? And so it's like he was kind of like a demon, and like I said, he told me his name, but I can't remember what his name was, but it was a common name. And then he gave me his email address towards the end, when he started walking out. Well, he never did walk out the door. He started walking like he was going out the door, but I never did see him actually walk out the door. Okay, so anyway, he was interdimensional alien. He was Anthony, I have no doubt. Okay, so maybe it's one of his friends, I don't know. But, so then, okay, so this is kind of funny, because he's kind of representing demons, right? This entity that was in physical form up there at Price Cutter. And like I said, when we walked in there, he was already waiting on us. He was already there waiting on us. Just, not far from us at a table. Okay, so then all of a sudden, this woman, and she's kind of like representing angels, because she, and you could tell she was under mind control. A lot of these religious people are under mind control. But she was really nice, and she was much older. Well, he looked, that entity, Anthony too, well, how old did he look? About 52, 53. And this other woman that started walking. Apparently, we got up. I think my mom was probably like, "We need to go." Yeah, my mom was like, "We need to go," you know. So I stood up, and Anthony too stood up, the entity. And then this other woman, we started talking to this other woman that was kind of representing the good side, like angels, because she started talking to us, and she said that she was part of that angel group where she goes and helps people that are dying from cancer, something angels. And I think she, as far as I remember, she even, and I've seen her there before, it seemed like at Price Cutter. Not in a while, but she even had the shirt on, I think, something angels. And so she started saying about her job and stuff, and you could tell she just kind of looked like she was under severe mind control, because, she was religious, and she was part of, and that's what she did to go help people out that had cancer. She was part of that organization, something angels. And so she started talking about her job and stuff. And I don't know how it got started. That's when they started talking about blood types. And I can't remember if the entity, Anthony number 2, started it, or if the angel, I'll call her Angel, the angel started it. But then Anthony number 2, the hideous looking interdimensional entity, he said something about he said he used to give blood, but he doesn't anymore because he's just going off of what I would say. He said he used to give blood, and because I gave blood a couple times, I wouldn't today, but he said because I have low blood sugar problems and stuff, but he said he used to give blood, but he doesn't anymore because he said he's gotten older or whatever. He said he was B- blood type. B- blood type. I can't remember if I said I was A- or not. I can't remember. I maybe did. But I can't remember how the conversation got started. But one of the two started talking about blood types. And, but like I say, he's just going off of what I already know or think, Okay, but we talked for a long time. I mean, the whole scenario lasted. This is all in 3D. It seemed like it lasted an hour. It maybe didn't last that long, but he was able to appear physically for that whole hour. Okay, so then finally, we all got done talking. The angel, my mom, me, and the entity in physical form, Anthony number 2, that gave me this 500-year-old bead, Roman medieval bead. Then me and mom, I'm not sure what direction the angel went. She looked about 75, by the way. And she was a real human being. She wasn't an entity. Because I know I've seen her there before at Price Cutter. And, but the entity, Anthony number 2, he was not human. He was interdimensional alien, I have no doubt. Okay, so finally we said bye, we're leaving, blah, 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 blah. So then, so I saw him. Oh yeah, so then I go back around where the flowers are, where the flower department is. And I peeked around the corner, and he was like walking, like an entity, like a demonic entity, like acting like he was walking slowly, like he was about to walk out the door. I never did see him walk out the door, by the way. And that's when I peeked my head over there around, because he was scared, So I peeked my head over there around the flowers and stuff to see if I could see him walk out the door. And he was looking at me out of the corner of his eye. He was like, and that's when I was like, okay, pop back over here. Because I didn't want him to see me again, because I was like kind of scared of him and creeped out by him. But he saw me he knew I was like poking my head around there to try to see if I saw him go out the door. I never did see him walk out the door. And because I wanted to see if he really got into a vehicle or whatever, and I don't think he did. I think he probably demanifested by the time he got, close to the door or whatever. But he saw me, like, how did he know I was there? He just knew because he's an alien. how did he know I was there, you know, kind of peeking around, looking at him from the flower department? And, but he somehow did, and, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so anyway, so like I said, I never did see him walk out the door. But he somehow knew, that I was peeking at him, you know, like, you know. Oh yeah, that's a alien hybrid characteristic, a reptilian hybrid characteristic. I don't do it, but it's kind of funny that he was doing that, you know, like looking over the corner of his eye. Because my mom does it and my brother does it. I've never seen my sister do it, but I've seen my mom do it and my brother do it many times. Like, they'll be like, and I don't do that, but they do it. That's a hybrid characteristic, I have no doubt. And then Anthony number 2 did it. But it's like, I mean, there's no way he could have known where I was at, because he, you know, started walking off, and he couldn't have known that I was, but he somehow knew exactly where I was at, you know, when I was like kind of peeking around the corner, because I wanted to see if I saw him walk out the door, and I never did see him walk out the door to get into a vehicle or anything. So, but like I say, the whole story, it just didn't make sense. Oh, I come up here from Branson, but I know I was asking him a bunch of questions, and he was telling me a bunch of answers, but it just didn't make sense, because I'm like, you know, like he goes from Branson to England, you know, it just makes no sense that he's a chef and he owns a business and he looks like a homeless person. It just didn't make sense. But the weird thing was, I remember he, at one point at the table, he had his billfold and like all these notepads and everything, like all over the damn table. And then I don't remember him ever, he never did take any of that stuff up off the table. I don't know, he was just doing some kind of weird shit on me, probably. Making me see it, maybe it really wasn't there or something. He never did clear off all that stuff off the table. That's what was weird. So that was Anthony the alien coming to me in a different form, I have no doubt. Because he had the same theme, that medieval theme. And then under that virtual reality scenario in the altered state, he gave me that medieval theme, Roman, whatever it is. I guess it's 400 or 500 years ago. But I wonder if this bead really is what he says it is. You know, 400 or 500 years old. Okay, thanks for listening. Dear Patty, we gotta eat dinner now. Patty, and we gotta go night-night.